Pip pip, tally ho, Jules Guides here, in which I wander around London and tell you fascinating facts. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like the videos, and also that little bell, because that will notify you when I upload a new video, and you won't miss out on all my new amazing videos. And today we are in Maida Vale, and we're just outside one of my favourite stations. It's beautiful, Maida Vale station. Come this way, come hither. It's really nice. This is like from 1915. This was built in the typical Leslie Green style, which we are all familiar with. Do you remember when we were in the? You remember in Ealing? Yeah, we were talking about the roundel that they had. You can see that lovely mosaic inside. It was actually one of the older ones. It was from they've been using that one since around 1908, and you know, about 10 years later, it sort of developed and mutated into what more. The one that we use now, that you're more familiar with. And we saw something similar down in Ealing. There's a 1927 film. If you watch the film Downhill by Alfred Hitchcock, it's one of his silent ones. You can see it, the whole thing is on YouTube actually. You can watch the whole of this silent film. The protagonist, he walks in here and you see him go down the escalators. I think this is one of the first stations to be built with escalators as opposed to with lifts. About 500 years ago, the whole area around here was owned by the church, the St Margaret's, just that one next to Westminster Abbey. You know, the parish church of Westminster, where Churchill got married and all that. Then it passed into the hands of the Bishop of London, and then they passed an act around 1820 saying that you could develop the area.
During World War II, this building was Europe's biggest brothel. And when I first moved in 45 plus years ago, all of these were social housing. And I got friendly with some of the owners. And one little lady turned around to me one day and said, "Peter, every Friday night, half the American army were in there." Which I thought sounded unusual. After the war, there were two brothers, Messina brothers, they were Maltese. They were Britain's biggest pimps. And they continued to run it as a brothel. And by the way, it's still social housing. It was built by the church. That block was built, funded by the church. They all have a biblical sort of theme. So I don't know who that head is, but the headdress, that is Aramaic rather than Judaic. But if you look at the white triangle, that is breadfruit. And breadfruit was taken out to the Caribbean as a food staple for the slaves. And the church were involved in the slave trade. The next one, there are goat's heads, but notice it's the four-horned goat of Mendes, the devil's apprentice, as it were, for want of a better phrase. So again, one has to wonder, if it's the Christian church funding and developing this, why a conflict with Christianity? Gentlemen, I hope I've served you well.
You've been terrific.
I'll meet you in the vale and tell you a tale of times gone by. Johnny Stewart was just a lad when he led his troops out on the 4th of July.
Just round the corner from there, just off Randolph Avenue, is Paddington Rec. Paddington Recreational Grounds, I think they're called. My sister's school, they always used to come down here to do their games. Before I talk about Paddington Rec, which is actually very nice, they got some lovely tennis courts here. It's a lot nicer than I thought it was. It's come to my attention that a lot of people enjoy playing a drinking game whilst watching Jules Guides. Apparently, you know, people play drinking games when watching James Bond and stuff. Apparently, people do, like, every time I say splendid or marvellous or tally-ho or something, it's like sort of, oh, he said it. You know. If I point out a post box or a stink pipe, then you have to take a shot. There's a rather nice story about how these playing fields came about, actually. That entrance we just came through there was called Randolph Churchill Gate. And that's because back in 1887, the Paddington Cricket Club were looking for somewhere to play their cricket. There was no social services really back in those days. And so Lord Randolph Churchill, who's the father of Winston Churchill, he decided to start up a sort of campaign to get some money together to do something about this, to help the poor. But anyway, he managed to get together something like £2,000. But they couldn't agree what to do with this money. So R.M. Beechcroft, who was the alderman of the London County Council, he decided, I'll tell you what, I will agree to rent 11 acres of this field here if you agree to use that money to employ people to tend the grounds and to look after the drainage and to look after the fencing, but you weren't allowed to drink alcohol or use it for political meetings. So we've got R.M. Beechcroft and Winston Churchill's dad to thank for all these playing fields around here. I wonder if all these people playing tennis and cricket and what have you are aware of that.
Napoleon was happy when Johnny set out to sea and won the Battle of Maida in sunny Italy.
This is a tremendous pub. Look at this, the Carlton Tavern. It's so beautiful. And you remember in the Knightsbridge video, we went past that one which had Charrington ales, and I said it was quite rare to see these, but then we found another one.
Not so rare then.
Well, I mean, it was built in the 1920s, I think, and it's kind of quite famous for its 1920s deco feel, I suppose, especially on the inside. But I particularly love all this tiling and everything. But what's weird about it is around the 80s they were considering giving it listed status, and then just as they were discussing it, some housing association knocked it down, like bulldozed the whole thing.
Right.
But then I think there was some public outcry, so they managed to get it rebuilt again.
That's right. I read about that. It's crazy they did that. They just knocked it down. I tell you what, they've done a pretty good job building it back up. I mean,
what kind of houses were they thinking of building? Is that what they were trying to build?
No, that one over there, look, across the way.
I mean,
That
come
sort of
on.
thing, isn't it?
So when did they rebuild it?
Well, it reopened in 2021, so I guess for a couple of years before then, but it was demolished in 2015.
So they've done a good job.
They've done a hell of a job.
This particular walk does make quite a good pub crawl because there's quite a lot of really nice pubs along the way. We'll go back through the park, I reckon. Marvellous, look, Moors Head Road and Essendine Mansions, Essendine Road. These are really quite lovely, these streets. And look, there's lots of opportunities for points along here. Like for example, the Queen Victoria post box over there. But you only get points if you spot different types of post boxes, and if you see another Victoria post box, you don't get points for that. But then, honestly, look, this is one of the proper K2 telephone boxes listed from like 1924. Isn't that nice? So this is the type that David Bowie is standing in. You know, on the back of the cover of Ziggy Stardust, he's standing in one of these ones, and then they got rid of it. And then I think people got annoyed that they got rid of it up in Heddon Street. And so they replaced it, but they replaced it with the wrong one. So they replaced it with one of the K6 ones. Anyway, they're
not with one of those metal 90s ones.
Well, originally they did.
Sort of big glass.
That was called a K5 or something. Well, no, a K6, 7 or something. But the K6 ones are a bit like this, but smaller, but they don't have the same 3 windows like that. They've got little windows. Anyway, they're not as nice. These are the classic 1924 ones, designed by Giles Gilbert Scott, Sir Giles Gilbert Scott to you, Simon. I do love these, but I get the impression that these are all from late 19th century or something. I mean, this looks kind of Victorian, this school, doesn't it? I like it because it says boys and girls. But these are those nice classic old Victorian red brick schools. Can you imagine they've got those climbing frames with the ropes?
Yeah.
And those weird kind of benches that they kind of linked together. Do you remember
There's
it?
always apparatus in there that you never ever see get used, and you always want to use them.
Yeah.
They look like really fun climbing apparatus and stuff, and you never get to use them.
I remember all we ever used them for was sitting on in assembly. Don't make them like they used to, do they, Simon? Don't make them like they used to. King George VI.
In the Vale, 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 Vale. In the Vale, 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 Vale.
Look, we've just come down Sherland Road and we're on Fernhead Road, but look, at number 91, one of my comic film heroes, Norman Wisdom, was born in that house over there. Norman, Mr. Grimsdale, Mr. Grimsdale. I mean, most English people will know who Norman Wisdom is, and most Albanian people will know who Norman Wisdom is as well, because he was given the freedom of the city of Tirana, the capital of Albania, back in 1995. He became very popular during the dictatorship of Enver Hoxha. They say that Enver Hoxha allowed his films to be played because he saw them as a communist parable on class war, because he was always playing this kind of downtrodden, unfortunate working class man who would rise up against his stupid posh bosses, Mr. Grimsdale, and he'd always win out in the end. And that's why he was such a big hero in Albania. I guess they appreciated his hard work. Anyway, look at this amazing old ghost sign up here. What do you think that says? 219
to 219.
219. Yeah, 19 base will furnish, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it might have been a furniture place.
Yeah.
Maybe someone knows. Perhaps you used to live in this street. Let us know. Another terribly sad sight. A closed down pub. This was a beautiful pub, the Chippenham it was called. Look, there's another one here. Oops. Now I reckon this used to be a baker's or something, a bakery. Because look, Hovis, it says Hovis, does it? Dances, was, drive something. I wonder if there was a dry cleaner there or something. Or tea dances, does it say? Anyway, it is situated right here on Kilburn Park Road, next to a stink pipe. A stink pipe,
look at that.
Stink pipe. It's, well, because great thanks. I have to say thank you to my friend Dimitri, who you may recognise from my Lenin in London video, who did a lot of the research for this video. He pointed out that there was a stink pipe further along here, but he failed to notice this one here. And the reason we think, or I assume, there are all these stink pipes along here is because underneath here, Shirland Road, more or less, is where the underground river Westbourne runs. So anyway, points. If I shout points in the Joolz Guys drinking, I don't want to encourage people to drink, by the way. It's just an amusing thing. Look, J. Welford and Sons. Well, J. Welford, I mean, I think his dad or her husband or something was actually Richard Welford. He ran a farm which was just sort of behind here somewhere. I think it's called Warwick Farm. And back in the 1840s, he opened up a dairy. But this building is actually from 1882. And I rather like it, the way they've retained all that. What does this say? That this stone was set by Thomas Clark, the Sheriff of London and Middlesex, in 1886. The building on the end is even nicer, in my opinion. Their dairy got sold in the end to United Dairies. I remember United Dairies. They were actually, so in 1915 they sold this company to United Dairies, but United Dairies was going well into the 20th century, as I remember. Maida Vale, to me, whenever I used to go past it on the 31 bus when I was young, certain parts of it don't look that posh. And then you walk past around a corner and then you'll have this, these amazing, lovely buildings. This is the Maida Vale Studios, but it started back in 1909 as the Maida Vale Roller Skating Palace. It wasn't until, I mean, you can still see some of the, I think that's some of these, this arch here, I think that's the original part from when it was still a roller skating palace. But it was acquired by the BBC back in 1933, and some really important events took place. I mean, the Beatles recorded here, David Bowie's recorded here. Bing Crosby made his last ever recording here. I like Bing Crosby. In 1977, before he died. Didn't he die on the golf course? I think he died. Anyway, his last ever recording was done here. And it's where they did all the John Peel sessions. And more importantly, it's where the BBC radiophonic workshop was, where they created the Doctor Who soundtrack. When the TARDIS sort of started up, it was going, what that actually was someone's key. They took a key and they went to a piano, the strings of a piano, and they scraped a key along the strings of this piano. Look, yet more points, because it's another monarch cipher. This is King Edward VII on this one. So we've seen Edward VII, we've seen, oh, have we seen George VI? We've seen Victoria. How many more, Simon? How many more?
We can go down the Carlton Tavern, boys, and tell stories of old, of how we can then gets away.
Actually, the original Hero of Maida pub is we're going to come to that later, but I'm just pointing it out because I think it was after the pub that the area was named. The Hero of Maida was General Sir John Stuart, who was given this title of the Count of Maida. Maida is a place called San Pietro di Maida, which is down in Calabria, in Italy. In 1806, there was the king of the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. I think he was very grateful to this General Sir John Stuart, who won some battle of Maida. And so he called him Count of Maida. And so he was the Hero of Maida, after whom the pub is named, after whom the original pub was named, which we'll come to later, and after whom I think the whole area was named. And the pub is closed.
Came to London on Warwick Avenue. Was he missing Italy or was he glad to be somewhere new?
Look, I like all these pineapples they've got along here. Or, as some people will write in, pine cones, but I'm sticking by the fact that they're pineapples because I think that represents welcome. You're welcome there, there, and there. Maybe you're not welcome here, I don't know, because these are lions. They're a bit more scary, aren't they? They're a bit more like, keep away. I don't know. But, yeah, pineapples, which were supposedly a sign of welcome back in the old days because they were so difficult to come by. Oh, they're splendid, aren't they, all these houses?
They're not bad.
Look, the Prince Alfred, built in 1856. This is a listed building, a beautiful pub. What I really like about it, because I'm a David Bowie fan, is this is where he did the, you know, jazzing for Blue Jean, when he did the, it's like a long 20-minute little mini video in which he includes the song and the video Blue Jean. Like, so David Bowie's kind of up a ladder here, isn't he? He's up a ladder here and he sort of goes, I was feeling kind of blue, and then I saw her all of a sudden walk around the corner. And he sort of slides down here. Mind that car, Simon. Oh, sorry, carry on. And he goes inside and she puts on the jukebox Screaming Lord Byron. And then it cuts to David Bowie, being proper David Bowie, going, Blue Jean, I just met a girl named Blue Jean. I wonder if we can go inside. Let's have a little look. The Six Pistols. Did he used to come here? Follow me under here, Simon. Follow me under here, if you can. Don't bash your head. Because look. So look, they've... Such a lovely pub. And look, and they've got these things that are called snob screens. They've retained these original... So if you're sitting here, like having your drink or whatever, and you're such a snob that you don't want to see the person on the other side, that you don't want them to see you drinking or see your face or see who you're talking to, maybe with a young lady, perhaps, you can just close those just so they don't see. Anyway, people often think the video is finishing when I enter a pub, but we've got more to do. But this is an excellent pub to come to on your little pub crawl around Maida Vale. Points. Another one. Now we've got George V on this journey. Queen Victoria, George VI, King Edward VII, and now George V. Look at that. We're only missing a couple. We're only missing a couple for the full house. Full house. If you get all of them, you get Edward VIII as well, and, well, obviously you're going to see Queen Elizabeth all over the place. Haven't seen a King Charles one yet. I wonder if King Charles is going to have one. That would be so cool.
We're hangover tomorrow morning, aren't we?
Eh?
All the drinking.
Oh gosh, yeah. I do hope you're not doing this drinking game where you really will be suffering. Hey, look, just by next door. Look, this is where Alan Turing was born. You've seen the Imitation Game, haven't you? Father of modern computer science, really. He developed that special computer which helped to break the Enigma code in the Second World War. He built this. Loads of cogs and all sorts of things.
I'm just saying, I like this kind of church architecture. Yeah. And again, I like the little levels, the little steps, and the little, you know. Yeah. Just the name of the church. And look at that lovely sign there. Look at that retro. I love the angles.
When you get to Warwick Avenue, meet you by the entrance of the tube, or something. It's a song by Duffy, where she somehow manages to rhyme tube with avenue. But I appreciate Now, I think avenue rhymes with tube. And that's why I like Steve Harley, because he loves to rhyme things which don't quite rhyme. They say that nothing rhymes with orange, but Steve Harley manages to rhyme it with syringe. It was just like a dream, yeah, a surreal scene like a blue orange. I dreamt I was writing a song about a foot-long syringe. Anyway, sorry, I digress. This is Warwick Avenue Station. Another one that was built around the time, like 1915, when they extended the Bakerloo line from Paddington all the way up to Queen's Park. They built these new stations like Maida Vale and this one. Yeah, very nice it is too, situated as it is next to points, more points, next to one of London's remaining 13, I think there's 13 left of these cabman shelters, which is operational, which is quite nice to see. And yeah, taxi drivers do indeed sit inside, whereas we can only go outside and order a cup of tea.
How many points do I get for spotting this
Circa
1998.
K. I wonder if this. I think this does have a name. There's K1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, I think that might be a K8 or something. Telephone box. Yeah. I mean, I remember using all of these. All of these. Youngsters won't remember having used any of them. Marvellous. Look, here on Clifton Gardens is where Sir Ambrose Fleming used to live. And as you can see from that, he was a scientist and electrical engineer. He was a physicist as well. And he invented, I don't know why I find this amusing, he invented the right-hand rule, right? So I don't know if you did physics at school, but there was this rule, and I could never understand it. It's something to do with electromagnetism. So I think this one is like electric field, magnetic fields, motion, and I don't know, electric current or something. I don't understand. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a scientist. But anyway, I never understood it. My physics teacher would always get his hand out and he'd go, right, Julian, you idiot, look, it's magnetic field, electric current, and motion. Okay? And I just didn't understand what he was talking about. Anyway, easier guy, it's his fault. And he also worked for the Marconi company. He designed the radio transmitter for the first transatlantic radio transmission. Probably anyone who went to my school probably knows what I'm talking about. Stop mucking about, Gladwin, or you'll be mucking about in detention. This Clifton Nurseries, it's been here since 1851. It's the oldest garden centre in London. It's so beautiful, and rather hidden gem is the cafe they've got here. It's really, really beautiful. So that's a lovely place to escape to. Have your scones and tea. Okay, we've just arrived here, but Westbourne Terrace Road Bridge. The Borough of Paddington. So, this doesn't look quite the same as the other crest of the Borough of Paddington, which is on the other bridge. But look at these from 1900. It's just a reminder of the fact that, you see on here, you look on this street sign here, Simon, come and look at this. You see it says City of Westminster. It was, this was, the Borough of Paddington was one of the many ones which that got eradicated. It got subsumed by the City of Westminster in 1965 when they did that to a lot of the boroughs. But it's quite rare. You don't often see old street signs saying Paddington on them. Whereas you do see St Pancras, which is old. You see Islington, I think, or what are the other ones? But Paddington, for some reason, you don't see, which is why it's quite nice to see this little evidence of it here from 1900. You might recognise the pub over there, which is where we finished our video about Regent's Canal. And whilst we walk along to the next section, I might just cut to Vintage Joolz and let him take care of this little bit. Just this little stretch here. Well, I say Vintage Joolz, I mean only a few years old Joolz actually. We're heading through here to Brownings Pool. It's actually named after Robert Browning, the poet. They say that he was the first person who described this area here as Little Venice, although some people try to claim that it was Lord Byron. But I think in the end they said, no, it was probably Browning, who lived somewhere around here. They knocked his house down. You see just here, this is where the Regent's Canal started. So you can see these little locks here, stop locks they're called. those things. There's an Act of Parliament saying you aren't allowed to take water from the Grand Junction Canal into the Regent's Canal. So this stop lock was placed here, and this canal I think was like 15 centimetres higher than that canal over there. And there was a bloke who lived in this cottage here, the lock keeper, and he'd have to keep an eye on all this stuff. Thanks very much. Not very glamorous, is it?
Cruising down the river on a Sunday afternoon, with one you love, the sun above, waiting for the moon.
John Masefield lived there, not a bad place. Maybe that's what inspired him to write Sea Fever. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely seas and the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick and the wind song and the white sails shaking, and a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. Captain Mannering lived in that one up there. Arthur Lowe, yeah. I think, is this called Maida Hill Tunnel? Still
Did
pretty
they
amazing.
have horses drag the boats along as well?
Yeah, the horses would go along the tow path there. That's what it is.
Yeah.
If a horse was towing a barge along here, this was a point at which they didn't have a tow path, so they'd have to unleash the horses, and the horses would have to walk up over the bridge there. And what you'd do is you'd walk through the tunnel, so you'd get on your back, or you put some planks down, and you lie on your back, and you have to walk along the ceiling in order to get your boat through the tunnel. We might have to do that if we break down. Thanks, Jules. Now, what Vintage Jules neglected to mention was that, is it this one or that one? Number 7, anyway, is Kipling Mansions in A Fish Called Wanda. And this is where Wanda lives. And I think Ken lives here as well in the film, Fish Called Wanda. Remember, it's one of these. But more importantly, next door is where John Wayne lives in Brannigan. I love that film, Brannigan. John Wayne has been it. I find that sort of thing amazing. Anyway. You see where there's that pub sign, well, with nothing on it? Yeah. See, that's where the original Hero of Maida pub stood. And that's what gave its name to Maida. Well, actually, it gave its name to the hill, Maida Hill. That tunnel where back in the, when we were on the canal, in the boats, we were about to go through the Maida Hill tunnel. That was named after that. But Maida Hill and Maida Vale. But now Maida Hill has moved over sort of further that way. So they've changed the name of Maida Hill. I'm not sure if it makes sense anymore because this is the actual hill. Anyway, let's go this way.
In the Vale, so many things to know. You can drink a cappuccino, watch Bing Crosby come and go in Vale.
Look over here. Now, we're on the corner of Maida Vale and Sutherland Avenue.
Oh.
You see that building there? It's called Vale Court. Back in 1973, David Bowie moved in there. He was fed up because so many of his fans kept on hassling him down in Beckenham when he was living down in Beckenham. So he rented a flat here off Diana Rigg. You know, Diana Rigg from the Avengers, and also she's a Bond girl, isn't she, on Her Majesty's Secret Service. She's one of the Bond girls. She's the one that he marries. So he moved into there, but he only lasted 6 months because she had to evict him for excessive noise. So David Bowie did come to North London after all. Just opposite there is the tallest phone box in London, look. I think it was, actually what's nice about it is that this was originally the telephone exchange, I think. And so this isn't actually a real telephone box, it's an art installation by a guy called Philip Stark. He put it there when they transformed it into, you got it, flats in 2004. I've got a feeling it's been made especially for me. It's fantastic. You can't go in though. Still looks like a phone box though. Oh look, and just opposite there, you see this Everyman here? Just around here. Everyman Cinema. It's actually quite new. It's quite nice that cinemas are opening up because normally they're closing down. But anyway, so that's opened up not that long ago, but it used to be quite a posh restaurant. Oh, okay. And that's the one where, I don't know if you've seen About a Boy. Have you seen About a Boy with Hugh Grant? Hugh Grant. That's the one where he goes to break up with all his girlfriends and stuff. It's in that posh bar there. Anyway, the Everyman, which now presumably allows you to order nachos to your to your seat and all sorts of like full meals and drinking. I don't approve. I mean, packet of crisps okay, but I don't like it
No,
when.
popcorn's good. Popcorn's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Number 155 Lauderdale Mansions. I thought this was going to be a bridge too far for us. A bridge too far?
Bridge over the yeah.
Bridge over the river.
Yeah, I know.
Alec
I
Guinness.
get, yeah.
Sir Alec Guinness was born here. Look at that. A lot of people born in their houses in those days. I
Yeah.
suppose they didn't, you know, I don't think he was born in the hospital. I
To say, the bricks look really, really clean. Look
Look
at it.
It's had a
brand
bit of a
new.
clean, hasn't
Like
it?
someone's gone to it with a toothbrush. Something else.
For those of you that do not know who Alec Guinness is, he is Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. And who was that? In fact, Simon can do. You can do Alec Guinness better than me, Simon.
Yes, I was born here many years ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, the brickwork. I mean, these are like late
Well,
19th
look-
century buildings, but I mean, look at they must have had a good scrubbing.
Yeah, because if you go to the other side of the street, they haven't had that. But I prefer that.
Yeah, me too.
I have to say, I think that looks more.
Yeah, this is like Lego.
Yeah, and look how white the ground is.
Zim, 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 zim.
The Synagogue here in Lauderdale Road. This is another listed building. There's a lot of listed buildings around here. This is from 1896. It's the headquarters of, I believe, the Holy Congregation of the Gate of Heaven. I may stand corrected, but I think they're the oldest Jewish community in Britain. The British Sephardi Jews, which are Portuguese and Spanish. And so yeah, this is a listed, yet another listed building in the area, built in 1896. Nice that. And just over here, that's where David Ben-Gurion used to live. First Prime Minister of Israel lived here, it says. And those houses just over there, you see just next there, you've got these kind of mock Tudor buildings. That's actually, they look a bit out of place, but that's because that wasn't from the Second World War, that's from the First World War. I believe a Zeppelin dropped some bombs, unless I'm mistaken, and it blew out the houses there. So then they've replaced them with those. Probably in an attempt to kind of blend in with something nice and classical. Yeah. I think they look okay. I quite like them. Let's go down the pub.
You can worry at the Warrington or carry yourself to the Carlton doing the Charleston.
I mean, look at this lovely pub, the Warrington Hotel, and these fantastic lamps. I mean, this is glorious, but the best thing about this pub is that this is the one that features in the Sweeney episode Night Out from like 1975. Have you seen that, Simon?
I did, yeah.
We're the Sweeney, son, and we haven't had any breakfast. Isn't this the one where there's a stakeout or something? Jack Regan has got a girlfriend who lives upstairs
Yeah,
there.
ex-girlfriend.
And that's the entrance to the bank?
That would have been the bank, yeah, the Anglian Bank or
The
something. like
Anglian
this,
Bank,
and,
which features in quite a few episodes,
right.
actually.
So a lot of the action took place on the roof up here. And
All right. So cool. Anyway, we should go in and have a drink.
Yeah.
What will you have, Simon?
I'll have a scotch.
The landlady was just telling me that it used to be a brothel in here as well, called Randy Randolph's. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. It's so lovely to be in here. Honestly, brings joy to Simon's heart, doesn't it? To see, if you watch that episode, it's called Night Out from the Sweeney. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like these videos, and you can head over to my website where you can find out more about me, and you can buy my book. Don't forget to buy my book. It's highly recommended, and see you next time.